All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating. The psychology behind those people who just seem completely immune to trends. What's really going on in their heads?
You've totally seen this, right? A new fashion craze, some viral challenge, that new must-have gadget. It just sweeps through everyone you know, and pretty much everyone's on board. But then there's that one person. They're not fighting it, they're not against it, they just seem indifferent, totally unmoved by all the hype.
Now, the source material for this explainer uses a really interesting phrase for this. It calls it the scariest level of quiet. And we're not talking about being shy or antisocial here. We're talking about this kind of inner stillness that public opinion just can't seem to touch. So what's the deal with that?
Okay, so let's get a really clear picture of this person, the unmoved trend resistor.
You know, the easy assumption, the first thing you might think, is that they're just behind the times, maybe a little stubborn, right? But what if it's not a lack of awareness at all? What if it's actually a sign of a very specific and pretty powerful kind of psychological strength?
Well, turns out this isn't just some random personality quirk. It actually has a name: cognitive independence.
And here's the key thing. Cognitive independence isn't about just burying your head in the sand and ignoring the world. Nope. It's about having a really strong internal filter. It's the skill of taking in all those trends and all that social pressure, but processing it through your own lens of logic and your own values, and then deciding what makes sense for you and what doesn't.
This is like the polar opposite of social conformity, which is what most of us do a lot of the time. See, conformity is driven by that need for external approval. We want people to like what we're doing. But cognitive independence, that's all driven by internal logic. It's the huge difference between asking, what does everyone else think, and asking yourself, wait a minute, what do I actually think?
So how does someone even get this trait? I mean, it doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's actually built on a couple of really key psychological pillars.
And let's be super clear here, this is not about being a rebel just for the sake of it. It's about having an inner foundation that's so solid you just don't feel the need to follow the crowd. And that foundation rests on two major things.
The source material points to these two main components that just work together perfectly. First, having a really stable sense of who you are. And second, having some seriously well-developed critical thinking skills.
So first up, a stable identity. This just means you know what you believe in, you know what you like, and that doesn't change just because something new is popular. Your self-worth isn't all tangled up in having the latest phone or wearing the coolest brand. You're you, with or without the trend.
And then there's the second piece, strong critical thinking. Instead of just seeing that something's popular and jumping in, the cognitively independent person's brain just instinctively asks, why? Is this thing actually useful? Does this idea really hold up? They're evaluating the thing itself, not the cloud of hype floating around it.
And all of this, every bit of it, leads us to the real engine that powers this entire mindset, and that is where a person gets their validation from.
This is probably the most important question in this whole thing. Think about it for a second. When you feel good about a choice you've made, is it because you genuinely approve of it, or is it because you think other people will?
And man, when you see it side by side, the difference is just crystal clear. Someone who relies on external validation, they need the likes, they need the praise, they need public opinion on their side, and their self-esteem is always on this wild roller coaster. But someone running on internal validation, they rely on their own self-worth, their own values. Their goal isn't just to be accepted, it's to be authentic, and that leads to a much, much more stable sense of self.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's that simple and also that profound. Are you playing for an audience out there, or are you living by your own script? That's the fundamental split.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? How should we look at that quiet person a little differently now? I think what we learn is that real confidence, true strength, it isn't always the loudest person in the room. It's not about being the first to jump on a trend. Sometimes it's that quiet, unshakable conviction to just be yourself, no matter how much noise is swirling around you.
So, let's just sum it all up. That person who seems totally unfazed by trends, they're probably not out of touch. More likely, they're showing cognitive independence. And that's a trait that's built on a rock-solid personal identity. It's sharpened by critical thinking, and the whole thing is fueled by that powerful engine of internal validation.
Ultimately, this whole thing is a reminder that out of all the voices telling you what to think, what to wear, and how to feel, there's really only one that truly matters in the end, and that's your own. So I'll leave you with this to think about. In a world that is just full of noise, in an age of constant pressure to conform and post and perform,
What does your own quiet, what does your own independent mind really say about who you are?